People like Bobby Kerr, Billy Hughes and Vic Hallam, where are they now? Well, this film by David Burton and Chris Brown may provide some of the answers. So settle back and cast your minds back to May the 5th, 1973.
He has now played nearly 2 minutes of injury time, and again the bench is urging everybody to go back, and Sunderland have done it! Stokoe can't believe it, but Sunderland from the second division. Where's he going, Bob Stokoe? To Jimmy Montgomery, the goalkeeper who's punching and saving, saved the day for Sunderland. The most surprising result that Wembley has probably seen in its 50 years of FA Cup finals. Porterfield, the man who scored it, and Watson, the man who stopped Leeds United from getting an equaliser. The unbelievable has happened at Wembley.
Yes, it was an unbelievable ending to a footballing fairy tale. But Sunderland, a team with one foot in the third division a few months before, really had beaten mighty Leeds United to capture football's most famous piece of silverware. So how did it all happen? And what became of the men who made it all possible?
Leeds United, a tremendous result for football as well.
The homely setting of Brunton Park, Carlisle on a frosty winter morning seems a million miles from Wembley that memorable May afternoon. But 10 years on, this is where you'll find the man who inspired those remarkable scenes, manager Bob Stokoe.
Oh, come on! Come on, get it in, Jack, get it in!
Now the league's longest-serving boss, he spent most of his 20-year career running small clubs like Carlisle, Rochdale and Bury on a shoestring budget. But the heady days of '73 saw Stokoe capture the headlines like few managers before or since. When the disciplinarian Alan Brown parted company with Sunderland in November '72, the once proud club had fallen on hard times. Languishing near the foot of Division 2 and without a win in 8 games, the club was deep in debt as gates slumped to around 10,000. Even so, the task of awakening the slumbering giant attracted 100 applications. But speculation about the new manager was wide of the mark. The unheralded 42-year-old Stokoe, then at Blackpool, got the job. And though he faced a daunting challenge, a Cup winners' medal with Newcastle in the 50s had alerted him to the area's potential.
It was already there, the passion of their supporters, and they equal Newcastle's in the land as far as I'm concerned. That's why managers are jealous in many ways of the support they get, but that's the reason for it. The adrenaline flows very easily in them clubs, and as I say, the rewards are there.
Stokoe's reign started unpromisingly with a defeat, but by the new year, his talented squad was beginning to play to its potential.
Now Hughes being held and allowed to go on with it. Stewart on the left, he should score from this. He does!
Sunderland went on to beat Brighton 4-0, their first win at Roker in 3 months. The Stokoe magic was beginning to work, as Billy Hughes and Jimmy Montgomery remember.
With all due respect to Alan Brown, you couldn't express yourself on the park the way you would like to. You know, he told you to actually play to a pattern. And then when Bob Stokoe came, you know, he said, get out there and enjoy yourself, express yourself to the public, you know, and then everybody taking off from there.
We had a new lease of life, and I think people have to show themselves to a new manager how well they can play. And I think this is one of the reasons the team went off as it did.
The Cup run had a decidedly shaky start. In the third round replay against 3rd Division Notts County, 2 big names, Dave Watson and Dennis Stewart, pulled Sunderland through. If any players have cashed in on the Wembley triumph, they have. Stewart left Roker Park for Manchester City in March '74. His exciting talent should have won him more than 6 England caps, but his 2 spells at Main Road and 2 lucrative seasons at New York Cosmos have made him a wealthy man. Now 34, he's in his final season with Stoke City before retiring to concentrate on business. He's sales director of a promotions company. Dave Watson's now with Derby County and at 37 must be nearing the end of his career. After winning 14 of his 65 England caps as a Sunderland player, he followed the Stewart trail to Manchester City. Subsequent moves to Southampton, Stoke and Vancouver Whitecaps have given him financial security and a palatial home in the Manchester stockbroker belt. He and Stewart are near neighbours, and the symbols of their almost identical footballing successes hang proudly on his living room wall. Despite all they've achieved in the game, neither has any doubt about the importance of 1973.
I think it stands out, you know, above everything, because it was the first time that I'd played on a big occasion. apart from the semi-final. But the final was at Wembley and in front of 100,000 supporters. So it was the highlight, and still is.
The 6 months leading up to winning the cup in '73 was quite a bit of a lifetime packed into those 6 months.
When did you believe that you could actually go all the way to Wembley?
It's very hard to tell really how you felt at that particular time. There was so much happening. You didn't really have a time to sit down and really think what exactly was happening.
Did they have any regrets about leaving Roker Park to further their careers?
In a way, you say, you've left so much back home because you're very happy there, but on my playing career, the fact that I went on and gained international honours, as Dave did, and developed your career personally and achieved a certain amount of ambition in the game. From that point, I have no regrets at all.
I think when I left, I was 28 or 29, and I took upon myself that if it didn't happen the season that we were playing at the time, that it's going to be too late for me, especially at the time I was playing for England, and I just wanted to play First Division football.
Despite their wealth of footballing experience, both see their future outside the game.
I've always looked at business as perhaps what my future where my future would be, and I'm hoping to develop that very much.
Even from early days at Sunderland, we've always been interested in business, and I find it very challenging to be involved in other forms of career apart from football.
The fourth round draw paired Sunderland with 4th Division Reading, and Stokoe's side almost found themselves on the wrong end of a cup upset.
Floating in Montgomery, and it could be, it is. And Chappell is the man, I think. Hugh never took his eyes off that ball. Lathan, now Hughes, and away by Wagstaff. Hughes to push it back. Stewart's there, and Death fumbles. Stewart, yes!
A gift for Sunderland, but Reading's keeper Steve Death more than made amends with a courageous second-half performance which took the tie to a replay. There it was Watson who again led the way, as Sunderland scored 3 times in the first half hour to clinch a 5th-round glamour tie at Manchester City. And that wasn't the club's only good bit of business that night. After the match, Stokoe finally landed the target man he'd been desperately searching for. Vic Hallam, a big bustling striker who'd done the rounds with several London clubs, signed from Luton. He was to prove a significant capture.
Well, basically, it was the last piece of the jigsaw. Billy Hughes and myself were very much roving players, and we needed a central point to play off. And Big Vic came in and absolutely fitted in marvellously.
I think it was from that period when the team settled, and I'd used an expression, I think, that we would go like bombs for the rest of the season. It's daft things you say from time to time, but it actually went that way.
These days, Vic Hallam's still actively involved in football as player-manager at Northern Premier League pace-setters Barrow. Which means that after wife Jean and son Stuart have waved him off each morning, he drops daughters Laura and Sarah off to school at the start of a 120-mile trip to work from his pleasant home near Buxton in Derbyshire's Peak District. He's lived there since 1976, when he left newly promoted Sunderland for Oldham Athletic. Later, he teamed up with his old sparring partner Ian Porterfield at Rotherham, where a knee injury finished his league career. And when hopes of a coaching job there didn't materialise, he was forced to cross the North Sea to Norway to pursue his managerial ambitions. Now 35, Hallam admits he hasn't found fame and fortune in the way that Stewart and Watson have. So have the last 10 years been a bit of an anticlimax?
In some ways, I would think, yes. But I've enjoyed these 10 years very, very much. I had 4 or 5 good years at Oldham Athletic under Jimmy Frizzell, and they were very, very good years. We had a successful side, and I carried on scoring. But I'm enjoying my football more now than I've done for years and years. So it's been a very interesting 10 years and a very informative 10 years. I've learned a lot in the 10 years. And a lot of water's gone under the bridge, yeah. But I wouldn't change it for anything. had a very happy career, and I'm still happy in the work that I do, and I'm happy in football, which is everything to me.
Having stumbled twice against humble opponents, Sunderland could hardly have looked forward to their fifth-round tie at Manchester City. The critics gave Sunderland no chance, and at first it looked as though they were right.
Doyle, pulled back for Towers, good shot! What a goal! Fine goal by Towers. And that's a bad kick, gone straight to Horswell. Yes! Stewart playing it for Hughes, who is onside. Corrigan has come out and is in danger here. Yes! Bell on a run into the goal mouth. And it's gone in off the goalkeeper. An own goal.
Sunderland survived a frantic last 20 minutes to earn yet another replay, their third in a row. They also managed to reduce the First Division side to roughhouse tactics, with Tony Towers sent off after a butting incident, the villain of the piece. Amid the mayhem, Sunderland found an unlikely hero in 20-year-old Richie Pitt, who was outstanding alongside Watson in the heart of the defence. Just weeks earlier, the riot youngster had been told he could leave Roker and only played at Main Road because regular sweeper David Young was injured. But that afternoon, he made the number 6 shirt his own.
Oh, good shot, son. Well done. Have a go, Craig. Craig, don't let them go. Go for everything.
Tragically, Pitt was never given the chance to realise his potential. He suffered a bad knee injury in a league game early the following season, which spelled the end of his professional career.
Turn and hit it again. Ah, not handball, that's a penalty.
Now his only contact with the game is through coaching youngsters at a local school where he works as a PE teacher. But he still recalls vividly how he felt when he learned his own playing days were over.
I was devastated, for probably a week. In fact, my wife, Angela, took it worse than I did. But, we had 2 children, we had a mortgage to pay, so you just had to get on with life as quickly as possible. I think if you can't play professional football, the next most satisfying thing is to see your endeavours and your experience coming back through children. This group of lads I've got now at Thornhill, this is a good school, it's a good environment, the children are good. They respond to, coaching, and they respond to you telling them. And so far it's worked out very well, yes. I'm quite happy to stay in teaching. Now you see, Wayne, stay there. If you play that ball too hard, you force them wide.
3 days after their first confrontation, Sunderland and City met again in the replay. Roker Park was packed to the rafters with almost 52,000 fans. It was a night few of them would ever forget.
Couldn't find room for a shot. Nor can Horswell. This is Kerr. That's a good ball. And it's gone in! Tremendous shot! Short for him. Back out to Kerr. He's still trying to find a way through and succeeding! What a superb goal by Hughes! Doyle. Towers. Doyle again. Bell waiting at the back of the box. That's the pass aimed for his head. There's the nod down and Lee going in. Got it. Porterfield, Malone, and plenty of Sunderland players prepared to join the break. Flicked on well for Stewart. And put in. Hughes has done it. 3-1.
After the game, most of the lads just says, that's it, we're on our way. We're going all the way. And if you try to ask me how to explain that feeling, I couldn't. But the feeling was all within the whole team that after that particular game, we were going to Wembley.
A pub in the centre of Derby is both home and workplace for one of the real stars of 1973. Billy Hughes has run the Rising Sun with his wife Linda for the past 18 months. It's given him a much-needed period of stability. The hugely talented but volatile Scot left Sunderland in 1977 after 14 seasons at Roker. His footballing career then went rapidly downhill until Leicester City cancelled his contract early in 1980. Suddenly, yesterday's hero found himself in the dole queue, a victim of his high living reputation.
It just takes one phone call from one manager to another and reputations can get fired around the country. And I thought I got stabbed in the back a little bit.
What were they saying about you?
Well, just social life, really, enjoy yourself. I thought I was another Georgie Best, not in that class of football, but getting classed in the other way about it, you know, the social side. I can firmly say that if I was out, for instance, having a few drinks and all that, that would never affect my training. I would always be the first one up there, in the front line. I would always train hard, and I would always play hard. And I just wish that they would have judged me on that, rather than the reputation I got. And if they would have done that, who knows, I might have been playing now.
They're not in there, Bob.
Hughes's talent should have set him up for life, but he was always one to live for the present. His Sunderland testimonial was a financial disappointment, and he admits that memories are all that's left.
Well, I never made anything out of football, but I enjoyed it. I had 17 lovely years, and I would never change it for the world.
It's not gone off.
Thanks and always, Bill. What's up,
Hughes realises that a Midlands pub is hardly the best place to cash in on his Roker Park glory days, but hopes of returning to the North East have so far met little encouragement.
Well, I did apply about two to 3 years ago. I sent letters off to both breweries asking if there were any vacancies, but nothing happened. They didn't even send a letter saying yes, no, or whatever.
You're still open to offers?
I would love to go back, yeah.
After the drama and emotion of the City replay, Sunderland's quarter-final victory over second division rivals Luton was almost an anticlimax. Not that the headline writers let that worry them. A disappointing game was finally settled by a rare goal from Ron Guthrie, one of the side's unsung heroes. He'd made the short trip from neighbours Newcastle only weeks before, and couldn't have picked a better time for his first goal at Roker. Guthrie returned to Tyneside 2 years later, but not to play football. Freed by Sunderland, he went into business with another ex-Magpie, David Craig, delivering milk near his Killingworth home, a round which still keeps him busy. And Guthrie has the memory of one other flirtation with FA Cup glory to warm him these cold winter mornings. He helped the legendary Blythe Spartans to the 5th round in 1978. Dick Malone, Guthrie's fullback partner, was another underestimated player. The swashbuckling Scot had joined the club from Ayr in 1970 and enjoyed 7 seasons on Wearside before tasting life in the lower divisions with Hartlepool and Blackpool. Malone's still a regular visitor to Roker on match days, but this is where you'll find him during the week, the headquarters of a big overnight parcels delivery firm in Houghton-le-Spring. He's been area manager here since he quit football 3 years ago and is well suited to the job. As one member of the 73 team recalled, Malone could sell sand to the Arabs. He and Guthrie might not have grabbed the headlines 10 years ago, but Jimmy Montgomery, for one, didn't undervalue their contribution.
You know, we talk about cup finals and that, but these two lads did ever so well for us. We, Leeds United were going to win the tie on Eddie Gray and Dick Malone, and Dick just shut him out. Ron Guthrie superb going forward. I think it was about 3 or 4 attempts in the final, and 2 genuine lads, 200%ers, and you couldn't wish for better.
Semi-final day at Hillsborough, Sheffield, and Sunderland arrived from their Peak District hideaway to be greeted by a huge army of 21,000 travelling fans. The players who brought a smile back to the face of North East football were determined not to be overawed by the occasion. They even had their own resident comedian to help them relax, Bobby Knoxall.
Now, Billy Hughes, before he joined Sunderland, he used to be a window cleaner. Scotland. Dropped 2 bob out of his pocket one day and he ran down the ladder to get him, to hit him on the head.
Out on the pitch, though, the laughing had to stop. Sunderland faced those perennial killjoys Arsenal, looking to clinch their 3rd successive Wembley appearance while still challenging for the league title. It seemed that this was where the fairy tale had to end, but someone forgot to tell Sunderland.
Story ducking low to try and backhead it. Horswell. Lockley. Touching back, and will he go far enough? No! Hallam! A goal! Blocked his mistake. And Sunderland with another throw. Stewart coming hard towards it. And it's there! Billy Hughes with the header. And Wilson could only put it into his own goal.
Arsenal's desperate late rally was rewarded with a Charlie George goal, but it was too little, too late.
And it's a corner for Arsenal. And really there are just seconds left now. And it's all over. There aren't enough seconds. And Sunderland are through to Wembley. Arsenal 1, Sunderland 2. And the hugs are for manager Bob Stokoe.
I think probably that was the first time maybe the tears came quite willingly, because I got quickly into the dressing room after Arthur Cox had nearly strangled me on the final whistle with passion and emotion, which we both felt that we were going to Wembley. And we disappeared into the dressing room, and the police chief came in and said, "Bob, you've got to go out, as these people aren't going to go in." Coming down that tunnel and turning right and looking at that massive crowd some 20 minutes after the game, yeah, very, very emotional moment.
Sunderland were front-page news, and while Stokoe was hailed as the messiah on Wearside, he was the first to point to the influence of the man he called his little general, skipper Bobby Kerr. The tiny Scot, all 5 foot 4.5 inches of him, had been an inspiration during the cup run with the fighting spirit which had seen him come back from a twice-broken leg. A product of the Roker youth scheme, he had 10 years at the top before following Dick Malone to Blackpool and Hartlepool. The little general now works from this office block in Newcastle. These past 12 months, Kerr's been selling life insurance. Of all those involved in the cup run, his popularity is the most enduring, even with Sunderland's youngest fans.
I mean, I'm still doing presentations for under 11s who really, you know, they were about 1 year old when we won the cup. And I'd done a presentation about 2 months ago, and they put the cup final on video before I arrived to sort of show the kids who's going to do the presentation.
Well, Bob Stokoe gave you that now rather famous title. You were his little general. Did you like that title?
You like any title when you're doing well. You know, you just go along with it, you know. I enjoyed it. I think people that know me now know that I do a lot of sort of organising, and it was great at the time.
10 years on, you found yourself selling insurance. Is that the sort of career you had plotted out for yourself at the time?
I don't think that people realise, well, players realise what can happen when you do finish football. You always say, tomorrow you'll look at it. So the biggest problem I've got is everybody wants to talk about football. And I think I'm now getting to the stage that, you know, I'm now in a job that I've got to earn a living. And the football can always be spoken about when you've done the job.
For their first cup final in nearly 40 years, Sunderland couldn't have chosen more difficult opponents than those clinical professionals, Leeds United. The cup holders boasted 10 internationals and were making their 5th Wembley appearance in 9 years. Stokoe was determined his players should relax away from the feverish excitement building up in the northeast. The Monday before, he took them down to the luxurious Selsdon Park Hotel near London. In between rounds of golf, he even arranged a visit to the Mecca of football itself. Only Richie Pitt, as a schoolboy international, had sampled Wembley's unique atmosphere before. But Stokoe's relaxed approach had its critics.
We even went to the sports writers' dinner on a Thursday night, which was frowned upon at the time. We didn't even talk about Leeds till the Friday afternoon before the match when we had our meeting. And we said that whatever happened, we were going to go to Wembley and enjoy it.
Nevertheless, players like Mickey Horswell must have felt under increasing pressure as the big day drew nearer. Just 20 years old, he was going to be the youngest player on the field. But Horswell had already proved to Stokoe that he could do a man's job.
He was our tackler and destroyer and user, because we had the skill with Bobby Kerr and Ian Porterfield there, and all he had to do was to sit in there and win it and get it and give it, and which he did most successfully for us.
10 years on, and the shipwright's arms on Sunderland's Red House Farm estate as a new landlord. Mickey Horswell has been here for just 5 weeks. After 9 years' absence, he's come full circle, having called in at Manchester City, Plymouth, Hull and Hong Kong club Happy Valley on the way back. A persistent calf injury means Horswell's now finished with football, but did he always plan a return to the town that remembers him best?
This is obviously where I'm best known with our cup run and cup win, what we had in '73. So eventually, business-wise, this is where I wanted to come back. You know.
Do you think you'll ever get bored talking about it?
No, never get bored talking about it. That's my highlight in my career. That's what I worked for to achieve in football, and I managed it, and so never get bored of it.
Cup final day began early for the thousands of Roker fans who set out to make Wembley their own. It seemed the whole of Wearside was determined to beg, steal or borrow a ride to the capital, and they all believed the game could only have one outcome.
I'll give you the forecast as well. Sunderland 1, Leeds 0. Bobby Kerr will score the goal in the 29th minute. How's that?
Traditionally, cup finalists cut a disc. Sunderland were no exception, though their effort was hardly Eurovision Song Contest material. By early afternoon, Sunderland was a ghost town. Those who hadn't a ticket simply headed for the nearest television instead. Meanwhile, the players looked as relaxed as ever as the Twin Towers came into view. Inside the stadium, they received a tumultuous reception.
Our feeling was that we were going to win it. There was no way we were going to get beat in the final. And I think because the situation that Leeds was in, the whole country was behind us anyway. But deep down, they felt as if we were going to get crucified. But we never felt that. We were going to win it.
No Geordie team has been beaten at Wembley. That will give Sunderland a little measure of hope as we get underway.
Striker Alan Clark was very much the Leeds danger man, and he was immediately singled out for special treatment.
Giles, Clark, very strong challenge there by Richie Pitt, and it's left Clark flattened.
Well, he accidentally fell over my leg. It was a wet day, it was raining, if you remember. My job was to make sure that he got as few chances as possible. And if I could drive him wide or away from the goal, then that was part of my job done.
And that woke us all up and realised just how important the game was if we needed to be reminded. And then, so during the game, everybody was G'd up and worked 125%.
Sunderland's message was loud and clear. They were not going to be intimidated by their illustrious opponents.
Guthrie again. Reaney nodding that one away, but only as far as Horswell! Oh, and that was a fraction wide!
On a pitch sodden with morning rain, they chased and harried at every opportunity. Then, after 31 minutes, came the moment which stood the final on its head.
So Harvey tipping that one over. A corner to Sunderland. A deep one again. Watson is right in there. So too is Hallam. And Porterfield! Oh, Porterfield has scored! And Sunderland, the underdogs, are in the lead. Ian Porterfield.
Super goal, probably the best goal that I've ever scored. I always seem to sort of favour my left foot all the time, but just on that special day, I mean, the volley was the right foot, and it went in like a dream, and it was, you know, really nice.
An impressive setting like the New Look Bramall Lane seems an appropriate place to find a cup final hero.
Go to see, man. Go to see, man. Just nice and sharp. Go on, Joe. Nice and quick.
Ian Porterfield has been in charge of Sheffield United for 2.5 seasons, and he's enjoying the challenge of restoring a once mighty club to former glories. 18 months after his Wembley triumph, Porterfield looked to be finished with football for good. A terrible car crash left him with severe head injuries, which virtually ended his Roker career. But he was determined to put that traumatic experience behind him.
The amazing thing is that since I've left the North East, and Sunderland in particular, my career has developed ever so well. I had 2.5 years, you know, of good coaching and playing at Sheffield Wednesday, and then for 3.5 years I've been in soccer management, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Still learning my trade, but I'm still fairly young, and hope just to work continually hard and build a successful football career in management.
Having led Rotherham to promotion in his first full season as manager in 1981, Porterfield's decision to move on to Sheffield United, then in the 4th division for the first time in their history, came as a surprise. But he saw them as a club whose ambition matched his own. And with the Blades now near the top of Division 3, he can view the future with confidence.
It's potentially one of the best clubs support-wise in the country. I think they've proved that over the last 2 years. They've came all the way down, and deep down I want to try and work hard, eventually take them back to the First Division.
Half-time came and went with no sign of Sunderland surrendering their lead.
But there's Watson again, and at the moment there seems no way past this big man.
Leeds looked more composed, but still found it difficult getting past Watson and company. When they did, they found Jimmy Montgomery waiting to break their hearts.
Back this time for Reaney as Sunderland crowd them out. Reaney, the high one in, and Cherry going in, and a great save, and a goal, no! My goodness, I thought Lorimer got that one.
I remember the cross coming across, Cherry coming in, heading it. Me go to my left and parrying it out. I just saw a white shirt coming in, so I knew I had to get up, and because there was another one coming immediately. Unfortunately, I got my hand to it, and the next thing I knew was me turning around and Dick Malone volleying it clear.
Sunderland born and bred, Jimmy Montgomery still lives and works in his hometown. Now 39, he lectures part-time at this college of further education.
What's for the position to take up?
The man who made the most celebrated save in cup history teaches leisure and sporting skills to a variety of local groups. Monty left Roker in 1976, having set a club record of 537 league appearances. There followed spells at Birmingham, then Nottingham Forest under the Clough-Taylor partnership. Even now he's on emergency standby for his old boss Bob Stoker at Carlisle. But did he plan to stay in football?
With the experience I had with different managers and picking their brains and picking different points out, I certainly wanted to get on the managerial side or the coaching side. And as you know, I started off with the Sunderland youth team and had what I thought was a good year. But unfortunately for the economic reasons, somebody had to go, and it was myself.
That obviously hurt you quite a lot at the time.
Yeah, it did hurt tremendous amount because, like I say, I'd spent 20 years at Roe Park, and I know they don't really owe you anything at all, but I mean, at the end of the day, I thought they did anyway. But that's what we're under the bridge now, and you know, I've just got to get on now just to make a new career for myself.
But if an offer came to get back into the professional game on the coaching side, do you consider it?
I think I would consider it, yeah, definitely.
Monty's miracle save breathed new life into tiring Roker limbs. Stokoe, his backup team of Arthur Cox, Billy Elliott and substitute David Young, could only watch and pray as the minutes ticked by. Despite a desperate Leeds bombardment, it was Sunderland who came closest to scoring again.
And Stewart is coming in again, and now his side foot there for Hallam, and Hallam again. And a tremendous save by Harvey, and Hallam can't believe it.
I remember thinking when we'd actually won the match, you know, which was about 5 minutes from the end, and Dick Malone got the ball and he went sprinting up the right-hand side, and I don't think the ball was ever out of the Leeds half after that.
Malone taking it up again. Well, he's found a bit more energy. Hughes and the referee looking at the watch again. Horswill. We have got one of the biggest upheavals of all time at Wembley. He has now played nearly 2 minutes of injury time, and again the bench is urging everybody to go back, and Sunderland have done it! Stokoe can't believe it!
Nobody knows what you're going to do at the end of the match, and of course I just took off because Monty saved that game for us, didn't he, with that magnificent save. And I've got the photograph at home, which will always be in one of the treasured places, and you look up and you see it in many times, and you always feel that, well, one of these days that ball is actually going to go in.
I think I remember going out afterwards, back onto the pitch, you know, just to sort of convince myself that it had happened. And but apart from that, you know, it's just lovely memories.
And they came down in their thousands from the northeast. They came down with hope, and they go back with the cup. There have been times when Bob Stokoe's found it hard to keep a job in football, but I would have thought he's got a job for life now.
Sadly, Stokoe's reign was destined to be shorter than anyone could have imagined. Sunderland took 3 more seasons to get back into Division 1, and by then the 73 team had broken up. Stokoe quit after a disastrous start to his first season as a First Division boss, and his team went straight back down. So why did the club fail to build on their Wembley triumph?
The pay freeze had a lot to do with the side breaking up, and I don't blame players for this. I mean, it's a short career and they'd become heroes overnight, and we tried very hard to give them better contracts, but the law of the land wouldn't allow us to do it, and that started the side breaking up.
I wish the side had stayed together because there was a lot of hard work had gone in, probably from 69 to 73, and the side was built up of young players with enthusiasm and honesty and loved pulling that red and white shirt on. And after the cup final, it seemed to sort of fall apart a little bit. And I always felt that if it could have been gelled a little bit more together and kept together, possibly, I mean, the side would have went on to far, far better things.
Coming back into Sunderland, 2 days after the ground was packed all the way into the ground from way out of Sunderland, it was just full of people, it's fabulous.
It was just new, we didn't know what was going to happen. We walked into that stadium, we thought, great, we're here. I think if I would have to go back again, I think it would be a bag of nerves. Because I know now what happened on the day.